$85 silver, $3,000 gold. I just had to say it. And this video is not really directly about those types of returns, those types of numbers for gold and silver, but it actually kind of is. And I'll explain that more to you later in the video. But are you feeling poorer right now than you did 1 year ago? A recent survey revealed that 50% of Americans are feeling poorer today, right now, than they did just 1 year ago. Hey, I'll be honest, I'll put my hand up, right? Things are difficult right now in the economy. I have twin 10-year-old daughters. They eat more food. Food is getting more expensive. They have more expensive taste. They wanted more expensive gifts for their birthday. It's becoming harder and harder as an American family to make ends meet. And I'm not alone, right? I don't like to have to say that, but the reality is 50% of you feel like you're in the same boat. And what's shocking about that is the fact that we haven't had numbers that high where so many people have felt so poor since the great financial crisis in 2008, 2009. And never before since 1976. Remember 1976? I was 6 years old. I have a picture of myself in kindergarten with an American flag at the bicentennial parade. Things were so much different back then. Yes, and you know what else was different back then? People felt much wealthier than they do now, even through the 70s and 80s. The last time that we experienced this runaway inflation like we've been through over the last few years, people felt like they were better off. What does this mean for silver and gold? Well, what it means is that when it all comes home to roost, the Fed's going to have to make dramatic moves, which will result in further devaluation of the US dollar, and gold and silver, well, they will hit that $85 silver and $3,000 gold mark. So in this video, without further ado, you and we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about Yahoo, the company. We're going to talk about Disney. We're going to talk about some big news stories, real-time things going on right now that maybe indicate to us that we are in for some challenging times. And again, that'll prompt the Fed to pivot and gold and silver to go to the moon. Let's get started right now. So if you're anything like me, you're experiencing firsthand these challenging economic times. I went to the coin shop the other day. I'll tell this story one more time. And on the way home, my power steering pump blew up in my car. I called the Acura dealership. This is an 18-year-old Acura, which I love, the basement mobile. Nonetheless, I said, hey, what would you guys charge me to put in a new power steering pump? First, he said, well, the part cost $1,500, at which point I felt part of my lower intestines shift. Then he said it's going to cost about another $300 in labor to put it in. Well, I thought, I'm not doing that. I was able to find one for about $200 and put it in myself. But how did people afford? How are people affording to live, to keep their cars updated, to keep their houses updated? I think we are just heading into some very challenging times. Now, we got news just yesterday from Yahoo. You know, Yahoo Finance, the big company, Yahoo. It's still a really big company. They announced they're laying off 20% of their staff. I think they said by year end, but nonetheless, these big tech companies, we already know, are laying off people left and right. The business environment is not healthy right now. Then we hear from Disney, right? Disney World, Disney movies, Disney streaming, whatever the heck they call that. Anyway, that's a big, big company here in the United States. They announced 7,000 layoffs. Every time we turn around, we're hearing about layoffs. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, guys. There's a big correlation between initial jobless claims and the price of gold, right? When initial jobless claims go up, and they actually went up last week, I'm not saying they're shooting to the moon yet, but it sure feels like jobless claims are starting to go up. We don't want anybody to lose their job, right? That's not good. But the reality is what the reality is. And as jobless claims go up, that will be extremely good for the price of gold and silver, because that means the economy is slowing down, right? People are losing their jobs. And when that happens, we're closer to a Fed pivot. I'm getting so sick of that word, but nonetheless, a Fed pivot. Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve and his money printing unicorn fart dust machine, right? Which will send the price of gold and silver skyrocketing. Thank you. Yes, you. There's only one you. Right now, you and me, we're together here in the basement. I honor the fact that you chose to join me right now. I hope I give you some entertainment, maybe a little education, but most importantly, some camaraderie. I hope you feel like you found a new friend, a little home away from home. Please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section below. Your voice matters. And I know you don't come here for fancy economic talk, but we do need to talk about the yield curve, because what it's showing us is very exciting for the price of silver and the price of gold. So you need to pay attention. School's in session. I'll make this very simple. In a healthy economy, the interest rate offered on short-term debt instruments, like a 2-year treasury bond or a 5-year treasury bond, will be lower than the interest rate you can get on a long-term treasury bond, like a 10-year or a 30-year. Like if the rate on a 2-year treasury bond is paying 2%, in theory, the interest rate on a long-term bond should be more like 4%. When it switches around, when it inverts, which doesn't happen very often, when the rates available on a 2-year treasury bond, like right now, are approaching 4.5%, but when you look at a 10-year, you're only getting 3.7, 3.5%, that means it's inverted. That absolutely, no matter what economist you talk to, means we're heading towards a recession, because what people think is that in the long term, the Fed is going to have to drastically lower rates. That means more easy money. That means more, toot toot, unicorn fart dust. And that means that the price of gold and silver go much, much higher. School's over. So when this next big economic crisis hits, that will be good times for the price of gold and silver. We got to remember the Federal Reserve, what they did last year in 2022, that was the fastest rate hike series in history, or darn near in history. And that's being done to affect an amount of debt which is higher than ever before. Remember, the U.S. has a debt to GDP ratio of like 1.25. So the drastic moves that were taken are affecting a massive principal level of debt, and that will have a much more potent effect. It's going to be interesting. You know I'm going to be here for you through it all. You're always welcome here in Ron's Basement. Thanks for coming today. Hey, watch another video, check out the merch shop, and I'll see you, yes, you, next time.